Hey, how's it going? I see we got a couple people watching now. Welcome to the Building Blocks of Bass. Today's guided practice session. Today we're going to be talking about pull-offs on the bass and just how we can use them rhythmically in our bass lines, what they are, like technically how to get them to work, how to get them to sound good, hopefully. So we're just going to dig into some pull-offs and put those into some bass lines. And, pull-offs, it's... if you check out Christian McBride's new course, Your Sound is Your Signature, he's got a great way of putting it. Pull-offs are kind of like the garnish that you add to the main dish. The main dish, of course, being the quarter note, the real swinging, like we're talking about bass, like walking bass lines. The quarter note's, of course, where it's at. And so what we're talking about today is adding a little extra stuff into the bass line to give it a little extra hum, to help it swing a little bit more. Give it some more rhythmic variety. When I think about pull-offs, my mind immediately goes to Ron Carter. I don't know if anybody else, but like I immediately think about Ron's massive pull-offs and all his like special tricks that he does and how it just works super well, So that's what we're going to be doing today. If you've checked out any of our previous videos, we're going to be incorporating some of the same things. Last week, we talked about walking bass lines. And we're going to be implementing some of the pull-offs into our walking bass lines today to try to really get that feeling right. So if you've got your bass, get it out, get it tuned up. We're going to start practicing real soon. All right. So I want to start just by doing a real quick explanation as to what a pull-off is, what it is, what it's supposed to do, there's a lot of different like rhythmic elements that you can add in between your left hand and your right hand. You could talk about a hammer-on, like if you played an A and you hammered on from A to B flat without plucking again. Of course, today is a pull-off, and we're talking about playing a note. For instance, here, this B flat, and we're really just going to focus on going to the open string. This is, our guided practice session is not super long, so we can't get into everything that I would like to talk about, different ways to practice this, but we're going to get into a lot. So this is definitely needed. Let's talk about the mechanics of a pull-off and what that is, what it does. So basically a pull-off is when you play a note, and let me take this down just so you can see how my right hand is functioning in this. So a pull-off is when you play a note, and I'm trying to turn to the side so you can see my left hand here, or my fretting hand. I know there's no frets, but my left hand. Depressing the string here. So I'm playing a B flat, and to play my pull off, I want to just pluck it with my pinky. Basically, I'm using my pinky to pluck that note, just like this, right? So there's nothing going on in my right hand for this. I'm leaving the note held, and it's still ringing. And then I'm using my left hand to pluck it. You do the same. You can do the same with your second finger with A. A flat. And of course you can do that anywhere on the bass. Yeah, I say that. It's most commonly used on the G string or the D string, even the A string, these pull-offs. But the E string is just real. It's hard for me to get that certain effect. You can make it work, but A string's a little bit easier. You can get that percussive, like that snap. And it's got a thing to it, So today I want to practice on getting our pinky, our second finger, and our first finger really happening with these pull-offs, especially to the open G string. So let's just warm up by doing this. Okay? And if you have any comments, any questions too, please feel free to write a comment. You can always come back later, please, and write something, and I'll check out the comments. And if you're inclined, join our Facebook group, The Building Blocks of Bass. I'm always there, open to any questions and suggestions for other practice sessions. But let's just start by trying this. So we've got just half notes. I've got my metronome set. Where are you at? At 60. Good middle of the road tempo for today. That'll work. Okay, so I'm going to call this 2 and 4. So let's try this together now, okay? So we're going to play B flat and then pull off. A, pull off. A flat, pull off. You ready? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Back to A. Let's do this a few times. So the pull off is really, the effect is in your left hand. And you want that to be in time. Of course you want that to be in time. And we're really going to dig into a little bit more rhythmic things. But what you don't want with the pull off is this. That's me just lifting my finger up, right? We don't want that. You want that, like pulling to the side. Good, cool. Okay, so let's take it the next step. Let's go to quarter notes, okay? Now, what I was saying today too is that we're only going to be going down to the open G string, but you can of course do this from like B flat to A, B flat to A flat. You can go from your second finger to first finger. But if you go up, it's technically a hammer-on, and we're not doing that today, so it's different. It's different. So just trying to focus in on pull-offs today specifically. So let's check out this exercise. This is the same thing, just kind of sped up. We're going to do it in quarter notes, okay? The idea is we really want to get our left hand rhythmically involved in the bass line and have it be as strong as possible. So let's try this out. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, go. Cool. So the idea is all of these are still long. We want the G string, of course, to be, we don't want to cut it off. I mean, you could if you need a rhythmic effect that way, of course. But so let's move this up to something, I just call it pull off pluck. So it's like we're hitting a quarter note, right? We're still hitting the quarter note is the focus, right? But we're pulling off and then hitting the G as if we were doing a bass line, like. So we're doing it. Let me stop the metronome just for a second while we explain this. So I'm hitting the B flat, pulling off, and then plucking again. So what I'm trying to say is that, actually what I'm trying to say is that my quarter note is going to stay the same in my right hand, right? So. Right? So that's the idea with this exercise, okay? And all these eighth notes are, of course, written as eighth notes, but they're swung. There's a triplet feel inherent in all of this. And it's really kind of based around, it is based around the ride cymbal pattern, too. Da, 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 da. So we could also practice this, flipping this around. This is the eighth notes on beats 1, 3, 1, and 3. But of course, you can take that to the extreme, and we're going to get into a little bit more coming up. So let's just get this one under our fingers now. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, go. Cool, that's a fun one, right? It's got a lot of bounce in it. That can easily be put into a walking bass line to give it a little extra, like I said, like Christian says, garnish. It's just, this is like what goes on top of the bass line, the quarter note, which is primary, of course. So we're just finding ways to embellish that rhythmically. And again, there's a bunch of different ways that you can embellish bass lines. This is just the one we're focusing on today. All right. So let's move on. Let's take it to the next extreme. And I should say too, a lot of this is covered in the Your Sound is Your Signature course, the new course by Christian McBride on Open Studio. You can find a link below. I also have 10 guided practice session like lessons based around like what Christian is doing in the course. And this is a topic in that. There's definitely there's a lot to be gained from this, and we go into more depth inside of the course. So so check it out, buy the course if you're inclined, and then check out the guided practice sessions that I'm hosting. And we really get into this in a much deeper way as well. Okay, so let's look now. We're taking this triplet. We're doing the same thing we were doing with the eighth note, except now we're moving it. Of course, we're turning it into eighth note triplet, so it's a little bit faster. So, but the idea is the same. Right? But now you'll notice this is a pluck, this is a pull off. This is another pluck, and there's another pluck. So we've got the first triplet, the third triplet, and then again. So that's a quicker motion in the right hand. So what I suggest is doing in your right hand, playing the first note, pulling off, plucking with the second finger. Right? So 1, 1, open, 2, 1. You can try flipping that to where you start with the second finger too, just a different depth to it. So you really get both hands talking, you know, like back and forth rhythmically here. And this is setting us up to be able to do more of the triplet drops and add some other rhythmic elements inside of our bass line, right? I'm going to slow this down just a little bit. Let's not do too much, but just to get it. That's an A. Let's set it at 50. We should be able to do a good triplet at 100 beats per minute. This is on 2 and 4 on 50 beats per minute. Okay? And if you're just joining us, there's also, I wanted to mention that I'm hosting a boot camp, which is in correlation with Christian's Your Sound is Your Signature course. It's going to meet once a week. The first 100 people to buy the course and sign up, it's included in the cost of the course. And it's just a way to further engage. You can ask me questions. We can get a hold of Christian, ask him questions about the course, and really dive deeply into some of the things that he talks about in this great new course. So check out the link below. It's definitely, I've seen all of it multiple times now, and it's gold. So every bass player should check it out. I recommend every musician checking it out for the conversation between Carl Allen and Christian McBride, which is just awesome. So, and as always, if there's any comments, any questions, please feel free to leave them. I'm not checking them right now. We're gonna do our practice and kind of pull off explanation, and then I'll get into that later. So feel free to write anything. So let's check this out rhythmically now, okay? So I'm gonna do it this way. I'm gonna play the downbeats with my first finger, and I'm gonna play the third triplet with my second finger. And I noticed that I'm just kind of creeping that second finger in there. Right? Both fingers are going to come back and land on the D string. You don't want anything flying up, of course, this way, really important. Okay? So let's check it out. 1, 2, triplet, triplet, 3, go. Cool, right? So that's definitely fun. Here is a slight variation on that. And what it's doing is playing the D string underneath the open D string as the third triplet. So we do it like this. Because this second finger can easily be rested right on the D string. So it, of course you can use it for like skips, and skips being like, or muted eighth notes, but triplets that are just involved. It's not a pull off. It's a different kind of. See how my second finger is in there? But we're not talking about that today. We're just talking about pull offs, right? So this is a pull off, still pull off pluck, basically. Pull off pluck, pull off pluck, pull. And I'm using the same fingering. I'm doing 1, 2, 1, so that I can get back to that G string. Right? And you can slowly build this up. If you need to start it slower now, that's totally fine too. The idea is to keep it even, with all the notes being fairly equally dynamically balanced, right? So let's try it out. 1, 2, 1, 2, triplet, go. One more time. Good. So that's just a good way to, I think, to warm up our hands and get them acclimated to the pull-off idea, or if this is, if that's a newer thing to you. And then also this is maybe a way to guide yourself into some different rhythmic ideas on how to practice this. And there's a lot that can be done with this. So now let's take it into bass lines. This is where it's at. We can practice the rhythmic, the concept, the technique of the pull-off concept. But if we're doing that, we're just doing, we're just practicing technique, which is of course crucial. We need to have that, that fundamental idea. That being said, too, we should go back and do all these exercises on the D string, because that feels different, right? Particularly because you have this G up here, right? So let's look at this bass line, okay? I'm just taking two bar loops, and we're going to get the bass line under our fingers. Then we're going to add in some of this pull-off material to help give it a little extra bounce, okay? So let's just play this bass line through a few times, and then we'll move on, and I'll show you how I add in some pull-off technique to it, okay? So just make sure it's all good, long, legato, full quarter notes, as full as you can make them. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, go. So just, meat and potatoes bass line going from 1 to the 4 chord, right? Using chromaticism. Okay, you got that under your fingers? Let's move on to just one idea for how we can add in some pull-off skips, some extra rhythm to it. So it's the same bass line. So boom, boom, dum, dum, right? So it's the same bass line with the quarter note. Remember, that's the most important part, is the quarter note. Let's hear what that sounds like. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, go. So it's got a little bit extra to it, right? So let's take the same bass line and now just improvise some places to put in some of these skips. Remember, this is all be triplet. utilizing all the stuff that we practiced just a second ago, right? Cool. Okay. So I've got a few more bass lines in mind that I wanted to shed. Here's another one, really similar idea, except we're just staying more or less on the one chord. You could also think of this as 1 to 5, maybe, but this could all just be 1 B flat 7. Let's check out this bass line. Get it under our fingers. 2, 3, go. Another meat and potatoes bass line, right? Nothing fancy, but it's really important. Right down the middle of the beat, right? So as we're doing this, just loop this with me for a while. As we're doing this, can you go ahead and start improvising in some skips? I mean pull-offs. Take some getting used to doing that D string because it feels different. When I pull out, you feel that the G string up there in your left hand. It's different. Like when I pull off the G string, you can pull off kind of a good ways, right? But on the D string, you can hit the G. So it feels different. So you've got to shed that string too. So we're going to take this same bass line, and now we're going to move it. This is the one that I had composed. Now this one, we didn't really talk about, or I didn't at least improvise that one when I was just telling you to, or asking you to improvise some of this. But look, this is the same bass line. Say 1, 3, 4, sharp 4, 5, 6, flat 7, major 7, back to the 1, right? So it's still. And now we're adding in one of those triplet things that we practiced just a minute ago, right? Pull off pluck, and then raking down, you can call it that, right? So that's a good way to utilize that. Cool? Excellent. Let's take a minute and just try to play this same bass line, the same walking line concept, and improvise some more just pull-offs. Okay, so I'm just going to take that away. We don't need that, right? So it's the same bass line. 1, 2, 3, go. The D string thing that we were doing too, right? So going so I think it's a good time to say again, this can be overdone, and that's why we were referring to it earlier as the garnish to the meat. The bass line, like the quarter note, is what's essential, of course, and you can play too many maybe skips. I don't know, it's subjective, you know, but you don't want it taking away from the groove. And the bottom line, especially as bass players, building block, bass lines, we went over it last week, the quarter note, really keeping that quarter note consistent. Now, the reason that we're talking about pull-offs today is there is a forthcoming free lesson from Christian McBride that's coming out from Open Studio that's directly taken from Your Sound is Your Signature, the new course by Christian on Open Studio. And I'm very grateful and to be involved in this course through doing some doing some more guided practice sessions with the course and helping with the development of the content and things like that. And I got to say, it looks amazing. And I think everybody that checks it out is going to be super happy about it, especially if you're a bass nerd. That's why we're here, right? You know, if you're into Christian McBride, you're going to get so much out of this course. So, but he does a whole section where he's talking about pull-offs, and he's basically saying that pull-offs are the garnish to the meat, right? It's like you have a great prime rib, and you don't want to, you don't want to cover it with sauce. You want the real deal. It's right in front of you, the meat, right? So don't overuse this, but you should have the concept under your fingers, right? Let's check out another one. So here we move to G. Let's get this bass line under our fingers. Right, so it's the same idea. Actually, this is the same bass line, right? It's just in the key of G. So 1, 2, 3, go. Same idea, right? That chromatic walking to the fifth. And you can just call this all the same, all G7, right? So automatically I threw in a little skip there, just the D, right? That breakdown. But we're talking about pull-offs today, right? So what can we do here? That's one. Let's change the bass line because I played a G. Try some triplets on the D string. Cool. So let's try the one that I wrote out basically. So here we're doing kind of a delayed motion. Not really, but this is a pull off, pluck, and then a rake down. All right, so we're plucking here, pulling off to the open G string, striking the G string again, raking down to the open D, and then we're continuing our bass line, right? But you can see that it anticipates beat 1, right? So it's got a little extra rhythmic type of idea to it. So, but it's the same bass line. 1, 3, 4, sharp 4, 5, 6, 7, chromatic up, major 7 to the root again, right? So let's try this out and just loop this for a little bit. Make sure it's feeling good. Do this with the metronome, of course. Put on a drum loop. We are set at 50 beats per minute on 2 and 4. So of course we're at 100 beats per minute effectively, right? Do this without a metronome too. You know what? Let's do that. So still feel that same tempo, okay? But let's try it together. See if we can link up, even though I can't hear you guys back. All right, let's try it. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. I totally messed that up the first time. There we go. We're looking for clarity. Oh, my fault. If you're still jamming, that's great, but I need to reset. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? Cool. So that's one way to incorporate pull-offs into like a triplet skip, a descending, this hickety doos, right? So real Ray Brown, real Christian McBride, Ron Carter comes to mind when I hear all this, So let's look at one more bass line. This is going from the 1 chord to the 4 chord, so a slightly different motion, but effectively the same thing. It's ascending. It's doing chromatic motion, so we know it's super strong. So as long as the bass line itself, the quarter notes, are put together in a good fashion, then adding some extra rhythmic devices to it should only help enhance the flavor, right? So let's check out this bass line. Still at 50 now, okay? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, go. Probably like you as well, I just naturally want to do that little rake on the D string to give it already a little bit of extra, right? So that's just built into the bass using these open strings and muting them too. Okay, so here is my little embellishment on that bass line. So here we are delaying where the downbeat of 1 is, which can be really hip. You can do this on any beat. This is just where we're putting it today. Practice moving this around in different places too. Okay, same with any of these rhythmic embellishments, make sure you're not just always doing them on beat 1. You want to practice that for sure. Make sure you have a strong connection with that. But when it's coming to bass lines, try not to use it in the same place every time, So let's try this line. It's still the same line. And now we're adding in one of our triplet pull-offs, right? So let's do the bass line and then let's play this. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, go. Now let's add in the drop. So it just gives that little delayed resolution. Something like that. Or 16ths sometimes. There's a bunch that you can do with this. I'm gonna talk, just make a fool. There we go. Cool. All right, so hopefully that was some interesting stuff on pull-offs for you. That you practiced along with me. Go back, watch the video. If you have any suggestions, comments on how we're doing this or practicing this, please let me know. And again, the pull off is coming from the left hand, right? I know some people were joining us a little later. But it's got to have that real crisp, like attack type of sound, right? Cool. All right, so got to hop into the comments. And if you're still watching, just let me know what you think. And if you have any questions. Oh, Shashank, what's up? Hey, Bob, Loving Christian's new course. Awesome. And your guided practice sessions. Really helpful. Thanks a ton. Hey, thank you. Really appreciate it. It was super fun to do. And I got so much out of putting those together and practicing them. So I'm glad you did too. Sign up for the boot camp if you've not already, okay? And let some friends know too. I'm sure you have plenty of bass friends out there, right? So let them know. Here's something else about the boot camp. Hey, Bob, when is the boot camp taking place? And if you have all access, are you still eligible, or do you have to buy the course outright? So first, the boot camp begins September 19th. Okay, that's the first day. I believe the last day of sign up, please double check the last day of sign up, but I believe the last day of sign up is the 12th. Okay, so that's the last day to sign up for the boot camp. And after that, I'll be sending out an email with a bunch of information about what we're going to be getting into, and send some other information to start practicing to be ready for the boot camp that we're doing. If you have all access, are you still eligible, or do you have to buy the course outright? Thanks. I don't want to misspeak here, and I'm not 100% positive, but I do think that if you have the all access pass, that you have access to Your Sound is Your Signature, but you're going to need to register for the boot camp. So I believe there's going to be an email going out, and everybody at Open Studio is super friendly and super accessible especially through email. So if you can find an email and just double check with them, we would absolutely love to have you. So if you have any more questions too, feel free to get a hold of me, and I'll try to find the answer for you in that. Okay. All right. Thanks. Cool. Thanks, Thomas. Hope you enjoyed it, man. Come back, join us again. Okay. Oh, and here was the answer. So I'm reading them, as they're put. We're keeping boot camp spots available for all Access Pass members. You should get an email to register for the boot camp soon. And the boot camp will start on the 19th, as it said here. So excellent. Rachel's on it. There we go. Yeah, happy Labor Day. Hey, Leonardo. Excellent. Great. Hey, if you have any suggestions about what we could practice next, please let me know. Most open. We have a Facebook group. The Facebook group is called the Building Blocks of Bass with Bob DeBoo. That's me. And it's just a good place to talk about some of the concepts we've practiced and some different ideas coming up. So if you're interested, please join, okay? Cool. Hey, thanks so much. I'm glad you love the sessions. Please come join us. We're here every Monday, of course, right? Oh, we got somebody new to the bass. Or you just maybe got a new instrument. Thanks, Bob. Learning a lot on my new bass. Cool. I hope so. Excellent. I'm always learning too. That's what's up. It never stops. Super friendly. Well, that's what they tell me. You're just seeing me here, right? I'm just kidding, Thomas. So yeah, hey, come join us again, man, for real. Okay, do you know already what we're going to tackle next session? Love these sessions. So I have a lot of things in mind. I don't know with certainty what we're going to tackle next time, but my idea for what we're going to be doing here is to hit what I'm calling the building blocks and then expand upon them. So basically, we started off doing triads, and we just hit major triads, and then we went into some chromaticism. And you can go back, you could watch all of these videos at your leisure, right? Just go to Open Studio's YouTube channel. We hit triads, we hit chromatic scale, and then we hit some bebop stuff. Then we did some walking bass lines. And of course, today we're doing pull-offs. So a lot of these sessions are geared towards like jazz bass. But what I hope to do too is to talk about some other rhythmic ideas, like triplet drops, different skips, doing maybe some odd time signature type of stuff, really focusing on the quarter note type of ideas, like how to build our internal tempo. That's another idea I have. Doing some stuff with the bow, doing a little bit more improvisation, talking about scales. There's so much to cover, but I want to at least hit, the basics and get that really under control. Intonation is a big one too that I really want to get into. And I have some ideas for how we can practice that here. So some of that's to come. Some electric bass stuff too. So we're definitely getting into that. What's up, Alexander? Welcome back. Good to see you again. All right, another one from Shashank. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing your name. Let's talk someday. You can tell me how to say it, okay? Could you please suggest some recordings to transcribe to learn some triplet drops, skips, slide, especially the Ray Brown triplets? So, okay. So definitely some recordings to check out. You mentioned Ray Brown, and that's the man, of course. It depends on how comfortable you are with transcribing, I think. I suggest going like straight to Night Train, the Oscar Peterson Trio album, checking out some of those. Maybe not C Jam Blues, that's a little fast, but you can find some, and that's a lot of quarter notes. There's not as many triplet skips, and there are some skips and things in there, of course. But maybe finding something more middle of the road is a good idea. So anything Ray Brown. I mean, basically, you can't go wrong, finding something Ray Brown. So another person I would suggest for this, though, too, big time, is Ron Carter. So he really, there's a bunch of people that were doing like pull-offs, which is what we're talking about today. But to my ears, he, like, of course, and I'm definitely not alone in this. He changed the game with the pull-offs and doing some extra, adding some different things to it. So, but we can talk more about it. Come to the Facebook group. We can discuss it. Okay. Ooh, sounds awesome. Thanks, man. Some 7/8 walking lines. Yeah. Well, play some 8/8 walking lines and just take one away, right? No. Yeah, for sure. So some 7/8 walking lines. Yeah, that's different. Like uh, that's a good conversation to have for sure. I'd love to be able to talk about some of that here. Hopefully we can do that. But I think that's gonna do it. If you have any more comments, I'd love to keep chatting. Uh, Add something here. I'm gonna go back and check it in a couple days. Come join me on the Facebook group. And please, again, check out Your Sound is Your Signature, the new Christian McBride course on Open Studio. It's fantastic. And I'm really lucky to have some hand in that. There's some guided practice sessions. There's 10 guided practice sessions on that course that take ideas that Christian's talking about in the course and really develop them. We talk about right hand technique, left hand technique, learning a tune like in a few different keys, learning the melody in a few different keys, some stuff with the bow, some really hit minor pentatonic ideas that Christian talks about. So a lot of good stuff. And so I hope you find that useful. Thanks for practicing with me today. Again, my name is Bob DeBoo. Come join me next Monday for the Building Blocks of Bass. See you soon. Bye-bye.